Week 9 is in the books with the top teams in the Big 12 showing why they belong in the title conversation. And two of the hottest teams in the conference go head-to-head in TCU and Baylor. We preview that matchup and more right now on Inside the 12. Welcome into another edition of Inside the 12. I'm Madison Hawk alongside Pete Souza. We're gearing up for week 10 of the college football season. I feel like each year the season goes faster and faster. I can't believe there's only 4 regular season games left, and there's a lot on the line as well. No better time of year for a football fan. It's also Halloween. I'll wait till after the show to put my costume on. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Happy Halloween, everyone. We hope you're all enjoying some trick-or-treating. Don't eat too much candy. Plenty to get to as we preview Week 10. And Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark is also going to join us a little bit later on in the show, so we're thrilled to have him. You will not want to miss that. Let's start by getting you caught up on last week's score, though. Before we look too far ahead, ranked teams, they did take care of business. However, it was a tight one for Kansas State in the Sunflower Showdown. The Wildcats escaped an upset from the Jayhawks with a 29-27 win, but it was a little dicey at times. No love lost in that rivalry. A fourth quarter field goal, 51 yards from Chris Tennant was the difference maker. The Jayhawks constantly giving their opponents a tough time, just can't quite get over the threshold. A much better team than their record indicates right now. Well, as for BYU, they entered Saturday's game at UCF as a 2.5-point underdog, and I'd say they took that pretty personally because how could they not? They're undefeated. Quarterback Jake Reslov had 2 touchdowns through the air and another on the ground as the Cougars offense controlled the ball for 40 minutes in this one. The Cougars went on to beat the Knights 37-24, but BYU right now just absolutely rolling, improving to 8-0 on the season and now ranked 9th in the AP poll. So that leads me to my first question for you, Pete. Does BYU have what it takes to go undefeated the rest of the way? Absolutely. And I'm not just saying that because they're coming off of a huge win. When you look at the Cougars, they win games because of the defense they play under Jay Hill. It's timely and it's playmaking. They've got 18 turnovers, tops in the league. And we're not talking about household names on this defense, but we're talking about gap and scheme responsibility. And they've also been settling down into a solid running attack with L.J. Martin. That is a championship resume. Now, I know Utah is the big rival coming up their next game, but Kansas, as we mentioned, is dangerous, and Arizona State could be 6-2 after Saturday. So those will be big-time tests. I'm not putting it in stone, but they could absolutely run the table. Yeah, absolutely. BYU just rolling on all cylinders right now, though. 2 big personnel changes coming out of this week's past games. UCF is moving on from defensive coordinator Ted Roof following a 5-game losing streak by the Knights. Associate head coach Addison Williams will take over. And as for West Virginia, despite coming away with a 31-26 win at Arizona, they have fired defensive coordinator Jordan Leslie. It has been a disappointing 2024 for both of these teams. How do you think UCF and West Virginia can salvage their season, or is it too little too late? Well, it's tough. You know, UCF has given up over 36 points 3 times during this 5-game skid, but the good news is Addison Williams actually called defensive plays last year for the Knights when they led the conference against the pass. For West Virginia, this was a bit of a surprise. I got the phone call out of Morgantown yesterday that Neil Brown had told the team they have given up 99 points over the last 3 games, even though they won. But apparently the team needed to change. The Mountaineers will see if inside linebackers coach Jeff Coons can give the defense the spark that they need. Yeah, well, UCF head coach Gus Malzahn also announced he will be handing off play calling duties to offensive coordinator Tim Harris. So big changes for the Knights as they prepare to host Arizona this week. Let's turn our attention to Colorado now. The Buffaloes welcomed Cincinnati to Boulder on Saturday night, and it was Colorado who got the decisive 34-23 win. Another huge game for quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who threw for over 320 yards and 3 total touchdowns. 2 of those passing touchdowns were, of course, to two-way superstar Travis Hunter. He had 153 yards receiving. Oh, and he also broke up a couple passes on defense as well, 4 to be exact. Colorado comes in at 23 in the latest AP poll, and Hunter was named the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. So all of that being said, is it safe to say that Travis Hunter should be the all-in Heisman favorite right now? Can I do this as I move to my old trapper beef jerky? That's right. What is your beef? This is the moment that I cherish. I think it's a joke that Travis Hunter is not already the hands-down Heisman favorite. Look,
You can put him up against the other players in this class, but how about putting him up against history? You look at a guy right now like Charles Woodson. Now, that's who won the Heisman Trophy in 1997 playing for Michigan. Travis Hunter is actually exceeding the play of an NFL Hall of Famer. Both these guys played both ways, but when you look at Hunter, he's playing the majority of the snaps on offense, and history pits Hunter against that Heisman winner. This is a generational player. We're talking about Travis Hunter. There you go.
And the backflip, too.
I'm flipping out over Travis Hunter. He needs to be the Heisman Trophy winner. And by the way, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter could both get invited to New York for that ceremony. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, to your point, it has to carry a lot of weight that he is that two-way superstar for Colorado. When we come back here on Inside the 12, we're going to be joined by Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. We're going to talk to him about the expansion with the college football playoff and the parity right now inside the league. That's coming up next on Inside the 12. Welcome back to Inside the 12. I'm Madison Hawk alongside Pete Souza, and now we have a very special guest that's going to join us. He is the commissioner of the Big 12 Conference, Brett Yormark. Welcome to the show. Such a treat to have you on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thrilled to be here, and thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Happy Halloween to you as well. It's nice to see you haven't gotten your costume just yet.
I don't have my costume on yet, but again, happy to be with both of you, and look forward to having a nice chat this morning.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. It's been an exciting and unpredictable season for the Big 12 as two undefeated teams sit atop the conference ranks, and BYU and Iowa State. How impressed have you been with those two programs and what they've been able to accomplish so far?
Really impressed with both programs. I'm not sure that either one was picked to be this high in the rankings, but that's football. You think about BYU, they have a great quarterback, great leadership skills. They're number 2 in our conference in offense. They're putting up a lot of points, and their defense is pretty good too. But all in all, I mean, they have played really well despite injuries in some key positions. And then you look at Iowa State, they don't make mistakes, and they lead the conference in defense. And I'll be visiting Iowa State here in the next couple of weeks. I try to visit every school once. I've been to BYU. Their fans are so happy and so thrilled based on how they're playing. But I look forward to being on at Iowa State here in the next couple of weeks. And we're just excited that those two teams are playing so well.
Commissioner Yormark, we're starting to see some separation among the top teams in the conference. But you look at the standings, it's tough to find an easy out. People throw around the word parity all the time when talking about the Big 12. Can you explain to people how that has become a strength of the conference, that parity?
Well, thank you. I think it's a great strength. Last July during media days, we were pretty profound in saying that we will have the deepest conference from top to bottom. There'll be incredible parity, and that the month of November is going to be quite magical as different scenarios unfold as it relates to who's going to show up in Arlington on that first Saturday in December. And I think we've delivered that and more. If you just look at, the lead changes during conference play in the fourth quarter, we lead the country in lead changes. It just shows the parity, the depth, the competitive spirit across our conference, and that, every game matters. Listen, over time, I do think certain programs are going to ascend and break away from the pack. But right now, parity is great, and each week matters.
And now we have the playoff expansion that's going to begin in December. The winner of the Big 12 title game is, of course, guaranteed a spot in that 12-team playoff expansion. But there's still a great shot, because when we talk about that parity, that there might be one, if not two, other Big 12 teams that can find their way in. How do you see the conference stacking up for the college football playoffs?
Well, I'm excited about it. First of all, want to see this 12-team format unfold. I've said that publicly. It's a very exciting time for fans. It's keeping the interest, around many programs a little longer because everyone has a shot, and especially in a conference like the Big 12. We started this season thinking that we would have more than one in that 12-team format, and I think it's playing out just as we had hoped. You look at the standings right now. We've got two teams in the top 11, BYU, Iowa State. We've got others that are knocking on the door. You look at K-State, you look at Colorado, they're playing extremely well right now. So our goal is to have more than one, And I think we're on pace to do just that.
Commissioner, I know you like to live in the moment, right? It's like, well, next game up. But when you take a look back and take a macro view of what's happened to this conference since you took over, right? The expansion, all the different time zones the Big 12 is in, basketball, football, perennial powers. Do you sit back and think, wow, we have made a difference here? This conference is elite. And there was a time where people weren't sure if that was going to be the case.
Well, I appreciate that. And I will tell you that I often say to my colleagues, be happy, but never satisfied. And I live by that mantra. And I am happy. If you think about what we've done the last 25 months, we've done a lot to transform this conference and to give our fans a lot to cheer for. But we're not done yet. I mean, there's so much more work to be done. And, I often look at us as a bit of a mature startup. We're in our 29th season. And when you compare that to some of the legacy conference, we truly are just getting started. And I'm excited about our future. I think we've set up our future in all the right ways. We've got a long-term deal with ESPN and Fox. They're great partners. They're elevating our schools and our narrative. You said earlier, expansion has led to across the ecosystem for us to get better. Football, we got deeper. Basketball, men's and women's, we got better. And our Olympic sports are starting to really thrive. So very excited about our future, excited about our 16 schools. And for our fans, they should be very bullish on our future.
Absolutely. You should be excited, and you should celebrate those wins as well. And we pointed out at the beginning of the show, 4 teams in the Big 12 already bowl eligible, with 4 more teams just 1 win away. Commissioner, thank you so much for your time. It was such a joy to have you on the show. Enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you for having me.
To your point, and I love how you asked him about just the national recognition the Big 12 has gotten, and rightfully so, to his credit, and what he has been able to do since he stepped in 2022. It's been really fun to see this league just expand and grow, as you pointed out.
I try not to fanboy, but yeah, the conference was in great despair when he took over, and sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, time now for a quick break here on Inside the 12. But when we come back, we're going to dive into the matchups that are happening across the Big 12 in Week 10. We're going to preview the big games and dive into the X's and O's. Stick with us. Welcome back to Inside the 12. 5 conference games on the schedule this week, with several teams getting a well-deserved break. That includes number 9 BYU and number 23 Colorado, but still plenty of action to preview. We're going to start with Texas Tech at number 11 Iowa State. Iowa State is trying to go 8-0 for the first time in school history. And right now they're putting up one of the top-ranked defenses in all of college football on the field week in and week out. How can the Cyclones defense create chaos in Texas Tech's offense?
Well, it's not a good time to face Iowa State. The defense of the Cyclones really has owned the Big 12, and they rank 9th nationally, giving up just 14 points a game. Texas Tech, they can't score if they don't have the ball, and the Cyclones actually do such a good job of taking it away. A +9 turnover margin. That's 7th in the country.
Yeah, and a huge reason that defense is why the Red Raiders are a 2-touchdown underdog. If Texas Tech has any chance to pull off a big-time upset, who or what is going to be the it factor?
Well, they lost to TCU last week, obviously, but Coach McGuire gets Baron Morton back under center. He says he feels good about his starter being back in the lineup, and that is really important. Behind Morton, that's backup quarterback Will Hammond. He is a true freshman. Asking anybody to navigate that 3-3-5 cloud defense for Iowa State is a big lift.
Yeah, huge to have Baron Morton back. Moving on to number 17, Kansas State, traveling to Houston. The Cougars are coming off a big win over Utah. And a reminder, Kansas State barely escaped with the win over Kansas last week. Now they turn the page to the Cougars, who, by the way, have become a really dangerous team down the stretch. They have 2 conference wins.
Yeah, Kansas State will likely have to adjust to another defense that is going to work to take away DJ Giddings. Avery Johnson said his faith in his receivers has continued to grow as opponents have keyed on the Wildcats' running attack. This week, though, watch for Giddings to get the ball regardless.
As for Houston's offense, how important is it for the Cougars to not only get going in this game, but to get going early?
Yeah, look for a little thunder and lightning. I'm talking about Houston running backs Jamarian Burnett and Rashawn Sanford. Burnett is bigger, a back who can bang his way to yardage, and Sanford has shown the ability to attack the edges and make tacklers miss in space in the open field. The pair ran for a combined 150 yards against Utah.
Wow, Arizona traveling to Orlando to take on the UCF Knights. It has been a bit of a bumpy ride for both of these teams recently. UCF making some coaching changes as well, as we discussed earlier in the show. Right now, they're just trying to get a win.
Yeah, and back to Arizona, even with the changes, Brett Brennan says he's not expecting wholesale schematic shifts from the night. 4 different quarterbacks have thrown passes this season. That's really just because they've tried to get a spark, and that means the Wildcats can put their entire travel party in the box to try to stop R.J. Harvey. He rushed for over 320 yards and 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games alone. As for Arizona's offense, quarterback Noah Fafita got things back on the rails last week, throwing for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns and no turnovers. The Wildcats will need more of that if they're going to win in Orlando.
Arizona State traveling to Oklahoma State. The Cowboys right now just hungry for a win. They have not won in their last 5 games and haven't won a conference game yet. How can they get their first Big 12 win against Arizona State?
Homecoming in Stillwater this weekend, that's a good sign, and you got to look to Ollie Gordon. He's removing any doubts, by the way, about his status. He said, "My mama always told me that you finish what you start. Who would I be to give up on my team, because our season is not going how we want it to go." As far as Arizona State is concerned, Mike Gundy says Cam Scatteraboo is the guy they got to stop. That's where they get their energy from. If you can stop Scatteraboo, you can stop the Sun Devils.
And right now, Cam Scatteraboo has been a huge reason why they have found a ton of offensive success. And now it's time for our game of the week, which is a bitter rivalry between TCU and Baylor. Both teams stacking wins as of late as well. Let's start with Baylor. After a 2-4 start to the season, the Bears have won 2 in a row. They're getting hot at the right time. Can Sawyer Robertson continue his great play at quarterback?
I had the chance to speak with Sawyer one-on-one just a few days ago. He told me the game has slowed down for him this season. You can see it really in how quickly he progresses through his reads in the passing game. Dave Aranda, Jake Spavital, you love to hear that. Things are slowing down for your quarterback. You don't like it if you're TCU. And their defense, although they have gotten better, Baylor has scored nearly 100 points and rushed for nearly 600 yards in the past 2 weeks. So that's a tough task stopping the Bears.
As for TCU's offense, if the Frogs want to match Baylor's explosive offense that they have shown as of late, who or what is going to have to get going early for TCU?
It's got to be Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover, expect him to be slinging it all over the field Saturday, and he has a lot of weapons. Caden Jenkins and the Bears secondary do a great job in man-to-man coverage when Coach Aranda dials up blitz packages. So look for Hoover to be forced to make some very quick decisions under duress.
That's going to be a fun game. We heard Commissioner Yormark say that he will be in attendance for that game as well. Up next, an all-time Baylor football great is going to join us to pick all of this week's winners. Keep it right here on Inside the 12. Welcome back to the show. We are nearing our time here on Inside the 12, so that means it's time for our last segment of the show. You know what time it is. It is time for our weekly pick segment, and we have to first look back at last week's picks. Unfortunately, I think we can just gloss over this once again. I think I got a little too arrogant coming out in the first few weeks, and now I haven't done as well. I've declined a little bit, but Pete, you're looking pretty good there.
There's time left.
Yeah,
I will tell you that much.
That's okay. Well, hey, let's bring in this week's guest picker, who was a big-time quarterback for the Baylor Bears in the early 90s. He is now in his 21st season on the call for Baylor football radio broadcasts. We're going to bring in and welcome JJ Joe. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. Look forward to picking with you too.
Yeah, I know nobody could run the triple option like you, but we're only giving you 2 options on every game, all right?
Hey, no worries. I'm looking forward to it. I think I'll take care of that. I'll make sure we win all these.
I like it. All right, let's see what you got. Let's start with Texas Tech at number 11, Iowa State. This is going to be a big game. The Cyclones undefeated. That kickoff's at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. Who are you feeling in this one, JJ?
Hey, Cyclones are tough. It may be a Cyclone in Ames this weekend. Cyclones win.
Yeah, I like the Cyclones as well.
Absolutely. I think Iowa State right now, they're just firing on all cylinders. I don't see them losing. And yeah, they got my pick as well. Let's go on to number 17. Kansas State goes on the road to face the Houston Cougars. That's also a 3:30 Eastern kick on Fox. Who do you like in this one?
Hey, Wildcats versus Cougars. That's a great matchup now. But Texas guy, Southwest Conference alum, but Kansas State wins this. They have a great quarterback. That kid's lit.
Yeah, Kansas State, I think coming into this game, especially after kind of Kansas got their attention.
Yep.
Let's put it that way. I think they'll roll against Houston.
And JJ, you mentioned that quarterback, Avery Johnson. Oof. How good has he been this season? Really impressing a lot of people nationally as well. So Kansas State, absolutely my pick in this one as well. Moving on to Arizona, they head to Orlando to face UCF. Kickoff for that one, 3:30 Eastern on FS1. Who are you feeling in this one?
Well, UCF has let everybody go except for me and you. I'm thinking just maybe they get a little bump from that. So I'm going to say UCF, the Knights, pull this one out.
I like UCF as well.
You like UCF?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going with UCF. We can all agree on that one. The Knights have my pick in this one as well. Arizona State heads to Stillwater for a battle with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State hungry for a win right now. 7 o'clock Eastern on FS1 will be kickoff for that game. Who do you like in this one?
It's a tough one, but I got to go with the Cowboys. They're struggling five straight. They're in a corner. I think the Cowboys get Ollie Gordon going. They win it.
It is homecoming, and I can see where JJ's coming from on that one, but I think Arizona State gets right. If they win this game, they could be 6-2. They're a good team.
Yeah, I like Arizona State as well. As I mentioned, Oklahoma State, the Cowboys hungry right now for a win. However, I do like my odds with Arizona State in this one. TCU traveling down I-35 to continue their rivalry versus Baylor. This is going to be a really fun game. I'm excited for this one. 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Who do you like in this one? TCU, Baylor, who's got your attention?
Hey, well, I want to be able to go to Waco, but nevertheless, I know this is labeled as the Blue Bonnet something. I forgot what we termed it.
Blue Bonnet Bowl.
Yeah, Blue Bonnet Bowl. But in Texas, it's the rivalry. So like a revival. So I got to go with my Bears. TCU, really dynamic on offense. I think our guys in Waco have finally figured out kind of what to do at the end of games, and I think we pull out a close one.
Yeah, I'm riding with Sawyer Robertson and J.J. Joe, too. I'm going with the quarterbacks. I like Baylor.
Okay, this one was hard. I think it definitely is going to be a great offense versus a great defense. But in this one, I do think Baylor is going to win it. I like what they're doing right now with Sawyer Robertson as well.
Sawyer, yeah.
So we have this debate. Is it Sawyer? Is it Sawyer? I think it depends if you're born in the north or the south. It's Sawyer, right? Thank you.
He told me himself yesterday when I asked him. I can promise it's Sawyer.
Yep, it is Sawyer. The Southerner in me knew that.
Yeah.
JJ, thanks so much for joining us. We'll find out next week how you did on your picks, but best of luck this weekend against TCU.
Thanks for having me.
All right, JJ, how about it? Well, I like that we cleared that up, Sawyer versus Sawyer, and it is Sawyer Robertson looking to have a big game against TCU and a pretty solid defense in TCU as well.
Looking forward to a great slate of college football.
Yeah, well, that's going to wrap it up for us here on Inside the 12. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy your college football weekend as Week 10 gets underway.